A murderous Israeli shot another Israeli in Florida thinking that he was a Palestinian. No, wait, it gets even more absurd because the victim of the shooting, also a genocidal Israeli, blamed Palestinians, posting death to Arabs after he was shot. In all seriousness, this exposes the barbarity of everyday Zionism. This was a disgusting hate crime attempt. And notice how the victim of the shooting was quick to blame Palestinians and call for the death of all Arabs? Where are these people being radicalized at? Where is the media coverage about this? Why is the media not asking who is radicalizing the genocidal Zionists and why they are so bloodthirsty against Arabs? Not only is the Zionist-controlled media not asking these questions, they are actively covering the story up. Here's the New York Times blaming mental illness for this blatant hate crime attempt by this violent Israeli. Can you imagine the headline if a Palestinian with a smile on his face openly confessed about shooting someone because he thought he was an Israeli? Do you think the Zionist-controlled New York Times would just blame that on mental illness? Israelis are a genocidal society that are brainwashed from a child to hate and want to kill Arabs.
מה קורה כשאתם רואים ילד ערבי? מה אתם מרגישים? זעם. זעם? מה קורה כשאתם פוגשים ילד חילוני? למה אתם מרחם עליו שלא הולך חרדי? מה הוא מפסיד? כשאתם חושבים על ירושלים בעוד 10 שנים, כולם חרדים? לא כולם ערבים, חלק חרדים.
כולם יהודים, ויש גם ערבים שהם עובדים.
תהיה משגיח, הבנתי, כן, מה אתה אומר?
שמלחמה, כל הערבים ימותו, וחלק מהם יהיו עבדים.
Everything that Israelis accuse Palestinians and Hamas of being is pure projection. Zionism is a genocidal death code that must be defeated. Ukraine just used American bombs to attack an American pipeline in order to tank potential peace talks with Russia. We are currently witnessing Ukraine do everything they can, including terrorism, to promote war. Ukraine attacked the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in a blatant false flag attack and tried to pan on Russia in order to tank potential peace talks, and now they're bombing U.S. facilities using United States bombs in order to keep this conflict going. Is this Zelensky's message to Donald Trump that he will never accept peace and would even stoop to terrorism in order to prevent that? The Ukrainians are completely delusional. Ukraine's erratic behavior is exactly why they wasn't invited to peace talks in the first place, and exactly why Americans are beginning to turn on Zelensky. I'm even beginning to see some corporate media begin to question and criticize Zelensky because his overwhelming desire to have endless war against Russia. Now that peace talks between the United States and Russia and Saudi Arabia is apparently going well, Zelensky is furious and canceled his trip to Saudi Arabia as a result. Zelensky is desperate to keep his war going so he doesn't have to hold elections and he can maintain power. Zelensky will go down as a tyrant who ruined his country and an entire generation of Ukrainian men because he lacks any sort of diplomacy and common sense.
What's poppin', my friends? Welcome back to a very rare Nick at Night Live. I could not help myself. What's poppin', my friends? Earlier today, I had to record my video. This is why I didn't go live earlier. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make the Seattle Worker Strike Back organizing event, but I did shoot a powerful video. I mean, it's not the same as if I'm like throwing down a speech like I was in Chicago, which was still like a wild experience, man. To have like hundreds of people in the church doing my speech, following the revolutionary footsteps of Malcolm X, you know what I mean, our black radical leaders. So I'm very upset I can't do that in person again because God knows I want to, but unfortunately, you guys know I just had a big move. A lot of stuff happened, so I couldn't make it to Seattle. So, but I recorded my video today, but I had to go live today because we're witnessing something extremely profound. Extremely profound. Something that I'm shocked and I didn't see coming. And I want to be 100% clear here, guys. I'm obviously, you guys know, you guys watch the channel. I'm not a big fan of Trump. This still doesn't change the fact that Trump is our class enemy. And Donald Trump right now is allowing Israel to raid the West Bank. Like, we're seeing a high point of Israeli terrorist crimes. We have Palestinians fleeing from the West Bank because how much Israel is assaulting it, and Donald Trump is allowing that to happen. Israel broke the ceasefire. You know, the thing that MAGA people still give Trump credit for? I told you guys at the time that Trump was going to have the ceasefire and he's going to allow Israel to break it. And he allowed Israel to break the ceasefire hundreds of times at this point. So, guys, do not get it mistaken. I am not a fan of Trump. I'm not praising Trump. He's still a net negative. But what he's doing right now in terms of restoring relations with Russia is gigantic. Because we was on the cuff, and the Democratic Party and the Europeans was wanting to lead us to nuclear war. They was openly discussing, like, oh, can we just survive a nuclear war? Yeah, we can survive a nuclear war. I think we can do it. Zelenskyy was clear that his plan was to invoke Article 5 as a way to defend his country against Russia. What does Article 5 mean? I mean, the entirety of NATO goes to war with Russia. That creates a chain of events where Russian allies have to jump in. China has to get more involved. A nuclear war could easily start based on the direction of Biden, the Democratic Party, and many Europeans. So Trump preventing that is a huge boon to humanity. Huge boon. Now, I explained this on Twitter and X. I've been having a blast breaking this down. The reason why Donald Trump is destroying Zelenskyy, this man ended his entire career today. The reason he's doing that is because he's trying to wash his hands off his culpability and how he enabled the Ukraine proxy war. So you're going to see a lot of mainstream media, corporate media, pro-war heads. They will say that Donald Trump is lying when he said that Ukraine started the war. We know that's not true. This was a conflict that Russia got involved in. The Ukrainian civil war that the West started by arming the fascist Ukrainian regime. This was a process that took years that led to the conflict. Who was enabling that? Donald Trump. Remember, the original scandal, why he got impeached was because he stopped sending aid and weapons to Ukraine over some bullshit corruption. You know what I mean? So Trump was a part of the empire that enabled this war. So this is great, like, chess move on Trump's part, because Trump, seeing how this war is going to go down as a historic defeat by the West against Russia, despite they said it was going to defeat Russia, Trump don't want to be on the losing side. So this is him rewriting history and saying that this war is only because of Biden and Zelenskyy, who also play a big role of it as well. Don't get me wrong. But it's a very smart move by Trump to wash his hands with this shit. You know what I mean? And it's very frustrating to watch the pathetic pro-war resistance, which I'm about to show you now. Wait till I show you guys what Bernie Sanders had to say about this. The messaging of the Democratic Party is that we must resist Donald Trump by opposing John Bolton style, Lindsey Graham style, never-ending war. That is their plan to resist Trump. So I am going crazy as someone who do not want to see the working class be fooled by MAGA. I am dismayed that the incompetent resistance of the Democratic Party has led to Trump being all-time popular. He's leaving an opening. The Democrats are leaving an opening to the working class to choose MAGA as a lesser evil, because the Democratic Party is the stupid people's party. I remember growing up vividly being like, oh yeah, I may got disappointments with Democrats, but Democrats, at least they're smart. They believe in facts. Maybe that was always bullshit. You know what I mean? But the impression was Republicans was dumb. Jon Stewart used to make fun of him. Remember, I think I'm going back like the 2000s when everyone was shit-lived. You know what I mean? Jon Stewart were roasted idiots. Bill O'Reilly and them, George W. Bush, compared to Barack Obama, the smart, elegant Democrat. So back then, my perception was, even though Democrats are evil, they're the smart evil. Now it's clear that the Democratic Party is the stupid people's party, and that is exactly why we are seeing the unbelievable rise of MAGA. Just because they left the door open for Trump to do something which is basically common sense. So that's very infuriating. Before I show you guys a few clips, another thing you guys have to realize, what Trump is doing, there are two wings of the ruling class, and they have disagreements on how to handle things sometimes. The right wing believe that they should spend all our time implementing Greater Israel, the Greater Israeli Project, by supporting the genocidal state of Israel. We need to focus on that way more than Russia, who can be someone we can work with, who we can pull away from China, because that's the goal that Vivek and many right-wing people brought up a while ago, that, hey man, we need to become friendly with Russia so we can bring them away from China. Now, my prediction is I think MAGA is foolish if they believe that's going to happen. Russia and China created a no-limits partnership, so I don't believe the strategy is going to work. But that's another reason why they're doing this, because even though both parties are anti-China, the Trump wing of the empire wants to pull Russia away from China. I don't think it's going to work. And redirect their focus on Taiwan. Trump, on his policy website, and this made China very upset, he removed the part where we acknowledge one China, that we acknowledge that Taiwan is part of China. Trump is already having a more muscular foreign policy posture towards Taiwan. I wonder if I can find this. Here it is. Yeah, I think I can find it real quick. I'm going to get this clip. Look. China outraged after Trump State Department deletes key phrase on Taiwan. Look, Senator Tom Cotton explains China is the ultimate goal. So this is why I'm tempering everything, and I want everyone to understand that we are smart enough to have two thoughts at once. That it's a great thing that Donald Trump is pursuing peace with Russia. He deserves credit for that. But he's still an agent of the empire, which is the enemy of the working class. He's still engaging in extreme class warfare against the working class, endorsing a genocide, a police state that is meant to censor Americans on behalf of Israel. So don't anyone think, if you're new to the channel watching right now, that my coverage from here on out is pro-Trump. It is absolutely not. It's just that the Democrats are so fucking stupid, they are so incompetent, and they are so brain dead, they're allowing Donald Trump to destroy them. Because they went all in on Zelenskyy, this fraud Zelenskyy. They went in on a Ukraine proxy war. This is why Ro Khanna went on my channel. And he's trying to pull us back to the Democratic Party, and he got ate alive. I'm like, bro, you in a party where they will accuse you of being a Russian traitor because you don't want to escalate nuclear war. I told him to my face, I love my Russian brothers and sisters. They still with us during the civil rights era. There's no Atlantic slave trade that goes through Russia. There's no imperialist flags in Africa from Russia. As a black man in the Midwest, I have no reason to dislike Russia, and it is in my interest And it is in the interest of the working class to promote friendly relations between the United States and Russia so they can work together to uplift the working class. That is a common sense position, but if you have that in the Democratic Party, they will call you a traitor. They will say you're repeating Russian misinformation as a tax-paying American because you disagree with the foreign policy of Lindsey Graham and John Bolton. Do people understand that the Democratic Party is not only the stupid person's party, they're the McCarthyite, crazy, batshit neocon party. And because of their insane incompetence, they're leading to a rise of a MAGA movement. Now, because they're just that incompetent. Now, I'm going to show you guys. That was my intro rant. Because Zelenskyy fucked up, and you guys see the title. I was dying laughing for the last 2 days straight. I did not expect Donald Trump to go this hard against Zelenskyy, man. I'll be 100% honest. It is extremely refreshing. Remember, keep everything I said earlier in mind. It's extremely refreshing to have a face of the empire that doesn't speak in liberal, virtue signaling bullshit language. Oh, we standing for human rights. He's like, no, we want Israel to kill them all. We want to still, like, you understand that resistance fire we prefer to have the empire that says the quiet part out loud instead of the Democratic Party whose sweet honey words that trick the dumb left. People like Ro Khanna, he's like, oh, don't you know that the United States, we actually fight for good stuff sometimes. Bernie Sanders thinks that we're fighting a good war in Ukraine. We need to promote war to create peace. Ignorance is freedom. Like, this is the ridiculous shit. They're not coming from, I'm not just picking out like Joe Manchin style, Chris Coons style neocons, Chuck Schumer style neocons, Hakeem Jeffries neocons. You have the Bernie Sanders left that is criticizing Donald Trump from the right, which we'll get here soon. Here's CNN melting down, and I'm going to go through this in chronological order because Trump says the obvious. That Ukraine started its conflict, which they did because it started in 2014. They decided to work with the United States and create a coup. Decided to attack ethnic Russians in Ukraine. And Russia got involved in the conflict. And you can criticize Russia getting involved with all you want. To me, it was clear that Russia invaded Ukraine as a way to tell the West that we're not fucking around. We've been begging you guys to stop fucking around in Ukraine. So we're going to send this message, hey guys, do you want to negotiate now? Remember, Russia went to negotiate as soon as they invaded. So the plan was to invade and get a peace deal. And you can criticize that all you want, but to me, it's clear that the Russians had no other option other than punching the bully in the mouth. Because the United States wasn't going to stop until Russia did that. Now you guys see the consequences of that. It was a great geopolitical move by Putin, and that's why they hate him. He checkmated them. He forced her hand after pussyfooting with them with Minsk Accords, with all these bullshit agreements that they walked back. He like, fuck it, I'm going to just show my hand. Force you guys to respond. And he was expecting Ukraine to accept a very rational settlement, especially considering what they're getting now. So then Ukraine did not accept the peace deal. That Boris Johnson killed the peace deal. They went along with it. And Russia was like, what the fuck? Like, Russia was like, guys, you're really, I know we kind of went wild invading, but you guys are really about to start a nuclear war over the Donbass in eastern Ukraine. Over people who voted in a referendum overwhelmingly to be part of Russia. Crimea, just the same. The people want to be part of Russia. Russia, once again, underestimated the craziness of the West. Well, they thought they were like that they can get the West to yield, and the West did not. The West, and especially Ukraine, fucked up. Zelenskyy killed off an entire generation of his people, sold off his country to BlackRock. Society is in shambles, completely owned by the West. For what? Areas in eastern Ukraine who don't want to be part of your government in the first place because of the Maidan coup? I'm sorry, there was a lot of backstory there to explain. But this is one of the reasons why Trump is correct in calling out Putin and Zelenskyy for continuing this war. Yeah, I know multiple Russian people. Zoya is from the USSR, for example. I never met a Russian I didn't like. Never in my life. Remember, I don't care about the motive, but who was running propaganda against the United States exposing Jim Crow? And the Soviet Union propaganda that they was running, exposing the harsh, racist system of Jim Crow, went around the world and changed worldwide sentiment against the United States. You guys realize that? You can say, oh, well, the Soviet Union did just to expose the United States. I don't give a fuck why they did it. I just know the Soviet Union spread awareness. You can find the Google Soviet Union civil rights propaganda. They was destroying the West. They said, no, they were like, we believe in racial harmony. Look at the ethnic makeup of Russia. We believe that all races should have equal rights. Look at America and how they treat black people. So the point is, Russia was running pro-black, pro-liberation propaganda while white Americans was trying to keep us enslaved. Meanwhile, the same white Americans who are still alive today, there are people who was at Klan rallies who are still alive today who blaming black Americans and DEI for all the problems. They want us to take their side against Russia, who always had our back, who the Atlantic slave trade does not go through. White Americans stole our generational wealth. We asked for reparations. They tell us to go fuck ourselves. But you want us to side with this state over Russia? You want us to hate Russians? I watched the West. I watched white America. I watched Europe cheer as Israel burned children alive, as they raped Palestinian men to death, tearing their rectum, torturing people to death. They are torturing Palestinian doctors to death as we speak. But we were supposed to hate Russians instead of Israelis. You see what happened when you don't decolonize your mind? So I love my Russian brothers. Amen, Nick. All right. I think I've been ranting. I'm 25 minutes in, damn near. But there was a lot of backstory, lots going on. Let's play this. I'm going to show you guys how the liberal corporate media is reacting to this. How the Democrat strategy is essentially to attack Trump from the pro-war right Liz Cheney position. The Democrat Party is cooked, man. So let's get to this clip. I need a break from
the people of Crimea, from what I've heard, would rather be with Russia than where they were. Putin's a killer. A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why you think our country's so innocent?
President Putin, he just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
It was the G8. And, you know, I said, what are you doing? You guys, all you talk about is Russia, and they should be sitting at the table. I think Putin would love to be back.
President Donald Trump there repeatedly echoing Russian talking points about a number of things, including the war in Ukraine.
So do liberal corporate media and do the Democratic Party understand how crazy they sound, calling anyone who disagrees with their foreign policy stances someone who is sympathetic to the enemy? If you was calling for a ceasefire, you're pro-Hamas. If you're calling for peace in Ukraine, you tell the accurate history, you're repeating Russian propaganda. You know how absurd it is for Democrats and corporate media talking heads to accuse the president of the United States? Donald Trump is the president of the United States. It is not just Russian propaganda. It is literally now the position of the executive branch of the United States. So how can you say it's Russian propaganda when the American president is saying it? How do Democrats not realize how batshit crazy they are saying? Because it's officially the American executive branch position. The commander-in-chief said that Ukraine is responsible for not ending this war. So whether you agree with that or not, it doesn't change the fact that that is the official position of the United States. How can you say that that's a Russian talking point? Only if your brain is completely broken, I guess. Anyway, let's continue.
Repeatedly echoing Russian talking points about a number of things, including the war in Ukraine, just hours after a U.S. delegation sat down with Russian negotiators in Saudi Arabia to discuss plans to end the war in Ukraine without, we should know, any representative from Ukraine, the country that was invaded, in that room. Trump went so far as to falsely claim that somehow Ukraine and Ukrainians started the war.
I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
The talks between the U.S. and Russia lasted 4 hours. This morning, the Kremlin says talks between Trump and Putin could take place by the end of this month. That's quite soon, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is very much pushing back against Trump's latest comments.
Unfortunately, President Trump, I have great respect for him as a leader of a nation that we have great respect for. The American people who always support us, unfortunately lives in this disinformation space.
The U.S. president says living in a
Zelenskyy will quickly realize that him saying that, he just fucked up. Donald Trump, when he heard Zelenskyy said that, he was like, oh boy, I'm about to end this man's entire fucking career. Donald Trump was like, bro, you think I was going hard on you before? I was holding back, sir. Damn, what's popping, guys? I wish I could read some more of these comments. It's hard to do it on, we got a big show tonight. 1,100 people watching on X and Twitter. I mean, on X and YouTube. So Zelenskyy accused Trump essentially of being a Russian bot because that has been the default position that usually shuts up cowardly Republicans. Whenever cowardly Republicans would criticize the Ukraine war, they'd be like, Putin puppet. And they'd be like, oh, no, I'm not Putin puppet. No, I promise you, I support Ronald Reagan. I'm a Reaganite dude, I promise. Trump, Zelenskyy called him a Putin puppet. He's like, bro, I'm about to fucking end your entire existence. And this is what J.D. Vance said. J.D. Vance said that Zelenskyy is going to regret bad-mouthing Trump. And after that, after Zelenskyy called Trump repeating Putin propaganda, Trump essentially is going to be like, hey, yo, I'm going to show you some fucking Putin propaganda, homie. I'm going to show you that if you want to hear some Putin propaganda, I got you, homie. Now he's going all in. So Zelenskyy made a huge tactical error by saying that. But let's continue this clip, and we're going to get to Donald Trump completely ending Zelensky's career. But once again, I'm going in order. So let's cover, because the mainstream media thought that was such a got you by Zelenskyy. The corporate media was like, oh my God, look, Zelenskyy called out Trump for being a Russian puppet. He got him. They got him. Then Trump was like, bro, I'm about to fucking end your career, homie. Anyway, let's continue this clip. I'll be right back.
Information space. Trump's inclination towards Russian President Vladimir Putin is drawing bipartisan criticism, Democrats pushing back against Trump's false claims about the war.
Now with President Trump saying, well, the Ukrainians shouldn't have started a war. It is shocking to have the leader of the United States of America not know the most fundamental elements of how this crisis came to be.
Republican Senator Roger Wicker also rightly called those comments false. Back to the panel now. Kristen, I'm just going to ask you about the politics because you have your finger on this and you test this. Do Republican voters like to see the U.S. president endorse Kremlin talking points?
No. So Republicans are not, contrary to, I think, those who are on the other side of the aisle, they don't love Vladimir Putin. They're not supporting Russia in this conflict. However, Republicans and increasingly Democrats do wonder what's the end game here with the conflict in that region, that they don't necessarily see the possibility of Ukraine taking back all of its territory and there's a ticker tape parade and everybody's excited and they won, that no longer feels like a possibility. And so there's this tension between, on the one hand, very few, if any, voters say, yes, I hope Russia prevails in this conflict, or yes, I'm sympathetic to Vladimir Putin. On the other hand, does Trump have a little bit of leeway because so many voters say, I don't know where this is going, let's just get us out of this?
But that's
that is
fundamentally different, because that is true. And for instance, on the NATO thing, I wrote about this in my book, that it was a dirty little secret in Europe and even the States that Ukraine getting membership in NATO was largely off the table, at least in the near term. But it is different to have a US president say Ukraine is responsible for Russia's invasion. And it's not entirely new, because this president has never definitively blamed Russia for the invasion.
So you have the left that is against the empire, and we oppose NATO on principle. We want this war to end. The right want this war to end because they want to focus on China. Meanwhile, the smug assholes in the neocon center, quote unquote center, they say that anyone who don't agree with us is a Putin puppet, including the president of the United States, if you don't repeat our folklore, which is completely made up. But I want to end it because I don't care about what the rest of this panel says. I want to get to the, I'm going to show you guys some Morning Joe. Bro, they had a complete 1 hour meltdown. Prepping for my workout this morning, I had them on. They had a whole, because I had to hear what they had to say. They had a 1 hour meltdown. I only show you a little bit of it. But Joe Scarborough, like, man, I grew up a Cold Warrior. We're supposed to be a Cold Warrior fighting the Republican Party. This is on MSNBC, the Democratic station network. The messaging from the Democratic Party is we're going to oppose Trump from the pro-war Reaganite position. Complete insanity.
Let's bring in right now retired four-star Army General Barry McCaffrey. He's an NBC News military analyst and former U.S. ambassador to Russia, now the director of Institute for International Studies at Stanford and an NBC News international affairs analyst. Michael McFaul. General, let me start with you. It seems trite, but I just got to say, in the Cold War family I grew up in, we believed in peace through strength, and we believe
in the Cold War family I grew up in, we believed in peace through strength. This is the position of the Democratic Party now. You have liberals, you have Bernie Sanders, you have Ro Khanna, you have AOC listening to Joe Scarborough on foreign policy, and Joe Scarborough sounds like an unhinged neocon psychopath. I grew up in a Cold War family. Who is this for? Literally, who is this for? And they're wondering why the American people rejected them. Why the Democratic Party is dead. They're appealing to nobody. Look, your strategy to win is just to appeal to the CIA, pro-war shrinking community. That's your strategy to oppose Trump. Oh, goodness gracious. Let's play it. Let's continue to play it. But this is Joe Scarborough. I'm a Cold Warrior.
Michael McFaul. General, let me start with you. It seems trite, but I just got to say, in the Cold War family I grew up in, we believed in peace through strength, and we believed that capitulation, especially when you capitulate to Russia, leads to only bad things. I'm curious, militarily, what could be the
You see the insane world belief? Peace is bad, guys. It's good when over 1 million people die in a war. This is why it's insane that people call us the anti-Ukrainian position. We are trying to save Ukrainian lives. These neocons often brag about the fact they're like, hey, don't you know that we are degrading Russia? We are fighting Russia without even sacrificing Americans. Ukrainians are dying for us. Isn't that great? You see how this is a death cult in the West? They worship death. They cheer on Israel burning children alive. They want them to finish the job. Joe Scarborough wants more dead Ukrainians. He thinks that's amazing. And he thinks the idea of ending the suffering of the Ukrainian people, he's like, there's nothing that can come from that. These people are the most extreme in our society, the most craziest people in the world, the people who view peace as the enemy.
Capitulate to Russia leads to only bad things. I'm curious, militarily, what could be the consequences of hanging our European allies and Ukraine out to dry?
We're not going to watch too much of this.
Look, it's almost impossible to process and understand what's going on. The Putin regime, not only really, they're on their fourth invasion of sovereign countries right now. Putin is a gangster, a kleptocracy. There's nothing that doesn't signal a threat to Western Europe and the behavior of Russian military actions and Russian foreign policy. I cannot understand what Mr. Trump is doing. Essentially, NATO, an organization to keep the peace in Europe.
How is that going? NATO is here to keep the peace. How is that going, sir?
Keep the U.S. engaged. The two greatest concentrations of economic and political power, the European Union and the United States, is now being wrecked. The Article 5 assurance that the United States will be there to keep the peace is now gone.
He is decrying the fact that Article 5 won't be invoked against Russia. I just explained earlier in the stream what that would mean. These people are having a meltdown because the possibility of World War III starting has ended. Meanwhile, he thinks, oh, Trump is a gangster. These are the same people who support Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party of war criminals. But you guys already know the hypocrisies. You know what I mean? But let's continue.
Mr. Trump, for reasons unknown, is essentially repeating the objectives of Russian murderous aggression. The next step up.
Oh, it's Russian murderous aggression when they want peace. But what you are advocating for World War III and never-ending war, and that's not murderous aggression?
Is Poland, the Baltic states, Finland. This is incomprehensible what he's up to.
Well, and that is the important thing. The next step up, and if you look at our intel communities, they will say he's not going to be pleased. Donald Trump is wrong saying this could have been settled. He still wants Kyiv, and after Kyiv, he wants Poland, and after Poland, he wants the Baltic states. This is a man who wants...
Hey, dipshit, isn't the peace deal designed to stop that? If you can negotiate and give Russia the territory they already occupy in Ukraine, and that leads to peace, that prevents that dipshit. There's also the hypocrisy and the ridiculous talking point that Democrats repeat, that Russia, the state that they claim is losing and struggling in Ukraine, will also roll into the entirety of Europe as if they had imperialist designs, despite the fact that Lavrov, every single Russian official alive, and Putin said, no, man, we're not trying to go through Europe. We don't have a suicide. We don't have a death wish. We don't have a death wish, man. Like, even Russia, like, bro, we're going to Europe. We're going to get our ass beat. What the fuck? We will lose the support of our allies. I think China will probably stop supporting them because China values peace. They don't want to sacrifice their relationship with Lula, with Moody, with Xi Jinping. Why? For fucking Europe? Nothing is in fucking Europe. Why the fuck would they want Europe for? It's an absurd talking point that you guys will see that everyone in the Democratic Party is going to repeat, and this is their strategy to win back votes for MAGA, is to repeat bullshit CIA lies. But I'll play one more part of this clip and we got to move on.
To reconstitute, if not the old Soviet empire, he wants to reconstitute the old Russian empire. And of course, Poland is on the front line, aren't they, General?
Well, no question. But all of Europe now understands that the guarantees, the assurance of U.S. military and political backing are essentially gone. There can be no trust in the future deterrence of NATO minus the United States. By the way, this comes with a background of incomprehensible sort of Babel speak, seize the Panama Canal, seize Greenland, coerce economically Canada into becoming a 51st state, use military power against drug cartels in Mexico. It's just difficult to understand how anyone could arrive at these conclusions. And by the way, we're looking at a Secretary of State, former Senator Rubio, who has experience and judgment and history. Keith Kellogg's a sound guy.
This guy is boring as shit. So I actually want to hear what the guy on the right had to say. The guy on the right is the most batshit crazy pro-Ukraine nuclear war cheerleader you can possibly find. I actually want to hear what he said. I think he starts speaking around here. So I want to hear what he said, and then we move on, because this guy is a psychopath.
Peace with Vladimir Putin.
Well, first, Joe, your lay down about peace through strength was fantastic. You should take that clip and send it to every member of Congress, Republican member of Congress. You don't need to send it to the Democrats, and especially to the senators, and especially to the people. Senator, now Secretary Rubio, he used to agree with you. I know that for a fact. And I'm shocked that people are not thinking in those terms, because you're absolutely right. Right now, we look weak. We are acting weak, and weakness has consequences for our national security. First and foremost in Europe. I was at that Munich Security Conference.
So this is the contradiction I keep hearing. Yeah, Michael McFaul, I forgot his exact name. Michael McFaul is a complete lunatic. So people were like, oh my God, this is a danger to our national security. This is, oh my God, it's such a threat to our national security for us to have peace? That's the exact opposite of the truth. So this is what Democrats and people like Michael McFaul will say. People like Bernie Sanders, all the people with Russia derangement syndrome, they will say that Russia is a country full of barbarians that love war, who they can't wait to destroy their enemies. They never want peace. Russia is crazy. Putin is a barbaric leader. If that's true, why do you guys keep fucking with them? If Russia was so crazy and they are such a threat to national security, isn't that a reason why you want to have peace with them? Your guys' actions do not match up with their rhetoric. Because if Putin and Russia were this crazy motherfuckers, why do you guys keep messing with them? You guys should be, okay, let's have a buffer zone because you motherfuckers are crazy. So let's have a buffer zone at Ukraine. So we have a wall of separation. You know, the Russian position, the common sense position. Let's continue this guy and then we can move on.
Our European allies were in absolute shock about what the vice president said, lecturing them about democracy when we're having struggles with our own. And by the way, thank you for mentioning Alexei Navalny, not talking about the problems of arresting and killing dissidents in Russia.
God, this guy is crazy. Zelenskyy killed Gonzalo Lira. Gonzalo Lira was an American journalist who was executed by Ukraine. Ukraine banned opposition parties and oppositional media forces. But these people want to think that they're fighting for democracy as they're supporting Zelenskyy, declaring himself a tyrant forever because he refuses to have elections. Anyway, this clip is almost over. This guy's crazy.
Yulia Navalny, his wife, his widow, was in the audience, by the way. But second, just to your point, we are just giving Putin everything without even starting to negotiate. We're telling him he gets territory. He gets Ukraine not to be neutral, not in NATO. We're going to pull our troops out of Europe. And we're going to force Zelenskyy to have an election before there's going to be a negotiated.
Isn't this better than him? Because they said that Putin wants to invade Europe. Isn't this better than that alternative? If you believe Putin is a madman who wants to invade Europe, you want to start World War III because Putin won elections in Ukraine? You want to start World War III because Putin won a buffer zone between you and the West? I thought you guys thought Putin was crazy. Why don't you want Ukraine as a buffer zone? They don't even believe what they're saying. There's so many inconsistencies here.
A set of negotiations. We're giving them everything. And I've negotiated with the Russians. They're tough negotiators. We need to negotiate with them. But it is a horrific negotiating strategy to give them everything and demand nothing in return. It's just a catastrophic moment for American power.
How is it a good negotiation strategy to decline a peace deal when Ukraine was still in a solid position, when there was still 1 million more people alive? So according to this guy, it was smart of Boris Johnson to reject the peace deal when Ukraine is in a stronger position. According to this guy, it's better to wait. It's better to wait where you piss off your opposition even more. You're in a worse position. 1 million of your people who have died, and there's no path to victory. Isn't it way better to negotiate in the beginning, which I said, I believe that is what Russia thought they would do. And Russia was surprised when they decided to start and continue this proxy war. And I think Putin was surprised when the sanctions came down, all that shit. It would have been way better off if you negotiated in the beginning. How are you in a strong position now? And he legitimately thought that was a good point. Anyway, let's move on. There's still a lot to cover. Nick at Night, man, it's good to be back. 1,500 people watching on X and YouTube. If you're on YouTube, make sure you are checking to see if you're still subscribed. If you're new and enjoying the breakdown, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you support us on Patreon as well if you're enjoying this content. We got banger after banger coming for you. We have a Palestinian roundtable scheduled tomorrow. I have a prominent African reporter join us tomorrow as well. He's our new HotSpot brother who been putting out bangers. Let me I'm gonna show you guys. He had a great video exposing how Boko Haram was funded by USAID, and he's great. And I'm honored to have him at our HotSpot family now. David Hudayan. He will be joining us tomorrow. He'll be breaking down this video, explaining how USAID funded Boko Haram. You know, the organization that progressives are mourning, funding extremist terrorist groups to destabilize Africa. So he's coming on tomorrow. We have Palestinian Roundtable tomorrow. We have Midwestern March on Friday. Lee Camp next week. We have SL Canton next week. We have bangers after bangers, guys. So if you're enjoying this, make sure you subscribe. We just get started. I'm going to get through some super chats later. I appreciate the super chats and the support. So this is who joined us here soon. He got 1.1 million followers. This boy be dropping heat. He be dropping heat on the timeline. I can't wait. I love this connection. I love connecting with my African brothers. Especially my African anti-imperialist brothers like David there. Speaking of HotSpot, this is Nico's video. Nico, yeah, let's play this first. Let's play this because we're going to get to the main part of the stream. Yeah, we got fire guests coming up, guys. Zoya been in the lab cooking. I've been in the lab cooking. Bro, this is going to be a good season of Nick at Night, Nick at Noon. I promise you guys. Make sure you guys check to see if you subscribe and all that. So as a way to intro this segment, give myself a little rant break, I'm gonna play Nico's HotSpot. Bro, our HotSpot team is I'm so honored to be working on HotSpot. Nico been doing some great work. I've been doing about 4 HotSpots a week. It's great. It's like great to actually do real legit journalism like this. You know what I mean? Our editing team is killing it. We have a HotSpot, which is an anti-imperialist media outlet that is bringing on radical Black voices. You know what I mean? I love HotSpot. You know what I mean? What they're doing is amazing. So let's start this segment with Nico House, and I'll be back at the end of the video.
Amongst the peace talks between Russia and the United States, Zelenskyy has now accused Trump of living in a disinformation space. So in the last few days, Trump has actually accused Ukraine of starting the war between them and Russia, which is objectively true. And Trump, along with Putin, have called for Ukraine to hold elections.
Today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land Everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. We haven't had elections in Ukraine. Well, we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating, and where a country has been blown to smithereens.
Oh, yeah, I know. I think everybody kind of forgot that Ukraine basically turned into a dictatorship under Zelensky, and no one really talks about it. Now, in response to Trump's comments, he claims that Trump is living in a world of disinformation. Zelensky goes on to say that he doesn't even want to entertain the idea of approval ratings because that implies that an election is going to happen and there's not going to be one. Yeah, not sure you're helping your case there, bud. But he says he saw something recently that no one else was seeing except for him that shows he has a 57% approval rating. Oh, okay, Zelensky. So if you have a 57% approval rating, let's ask some of the media outlets to check and confirm just to verify that that's true. Oh, that's right. You got rid of literally every media outlet that criticizes you or challenges you in any way. Yes, the man who got rid of all media that criticizes him is actually accusing someone else of falling for disinformation. But you know what? That's fine. That's fine. Let's ask the other politicians from the other political parties how they feel and how their political party members feel about holding another election. Oh, shit. That's right. You got rid of every political party except for yours. Now, from what I heard from Biden and Zelensky and much of the West is that Putin is this crazy, evil, dictatorial figure. But Putin is the one calling for elections, while Zelensky is the one using ratings that no one can confirm to justify remaining a dictator. Now, I just find that extremely interesting and vaguely ironic. Oh, excuse me, did I say vaguely ironic? I mean, it is the literal definition of irony. And also, Zelensky, bro, do you really want to come out and attack the president of the only nation that will continue funding your war against Russia by insulting his intelligence effectively? Like, you can't win this war without the US. You can't even continue to fight without the US. You can't join NATO without the US's support, and they're not giving it to you. And let's be frank, after all this is said and done, it is probably only Trump who can save Zelensky's ass. But sure, Zelensky, attack and insult your only lifeline. Bold strategy, Chuck. Let's see how this works out for him. It's time for you to accept that this war is coming to an end. Russia's probably going to get everything they want. And Trump, although he may be stupid sometimes, he's not stupid enough to ignore the ramifications of a pissed off Russia and a Vladimir Putin. So maybe it's not a bright move to piss off the people who are effectively about to decide you and your country's destiny. Just saying.
Great hotspot as always for my brother Nico. And this is why Zelensky is afraid of elections. Because Zelensky could be ousted. You guys know elections are important in times of war. Elections is how you allow the populace to allow the will to be heard during war. So they can actually provide a great morale boost to the war effort if the majority of the people then overwhelmingly support the leader because it gives a message that they support the war effort. That is what Putin did. Putin, because Russians understand the threat of NATO and they understand the history, they support the special military operation. And because Putin is obviously winning and he obviously had a great plan, they approve of him. So when Putin had his election, he dominated. That gives him a mandate. And if you are a leader and you're running a war poorly, elections is a way for the populace to help readjust the direction of a country. If you don't believe in that, just admit you don't support democracy. You guys realize we had elections during the Civil War. We had elections during Vietnam. We had elections during the War on Terror. And this is coming from a country I obviously have no love in the United States. But if you are a country that believes in democracy, having an election during war is the stress test. You know what I mean? If you are actually believing in democracy, and that's obviously what Zelensky do, because if you believe that the country shouldn't run election, they should declare martial law to prevent elections. What's stopping a mad dictator from declaring endless war in order to maintain power? We have seen that over and over again throughout history, which is why when humanity decided to shift toward democracy, they decided that having elections during war was a good idea to prevent the madman tyrant from launching war just to maintain power. That's why having an election during war is extremely important if you actually value the concepts of democracy, which Zelenskyy in Ukraine does not, which the Democratic Party has not. So isn't it hilarious how it's actually Putin and Donald Trump that is fighting for democracy in Ukraine? So Bernie Sanders and the Democratic class, they believe that they're fighting for democracy as they calling for ending all elections and supporting a government that ends opposition parties, oppositional media. You literally can't make this shit up. So I shared this a little bit earlier, but Zelenskyy went after Trump, and this is where shit got real, man. This is where shit gets funny. Because JD Vance said, man, you're going to regret doing that, homie. You're going to regret going after Trump and trying to sabotage his peace deal. And boy, did Donald Trump cook this motherfucker. So let's get to the main part. I know everyone was waiting for this part. So Donald Trump reacting to Zelenskyy trying to punk Donald Trump on the world stage, it's Trumpian in every way that is absolutely glorious. Because Trump was like, oh, you think I was repeating Putin propaganda? Oh, I'm about to show you some fucking Putin propaganda real quick, homie. Like Trump got some gangster in him. He was like, bro, I'm gonna show you some Putin propaganda. So here's Trump clapping back at him today. And this has led to massive panic. And no matter how you feel about Trump, that's why I said what I said earlier in the stream, you have to admit this motherfucker just dropped the greatest political diss track. Top three political diss track I've ever seen in my life against Zelenskyy. For the people who are only listening, here's the tweet. I'm going to enjoy reading this. Here's Donald Trump. Think of it. A modestly successful comedian, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, he called out Zelenskyy for being a comedian. He's a pretty good court jester. A modestly successful comedian, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, talked the United States into spending $350 billion to go into war that couldn't be won. Like, the media is pretending this is Trump and Russian propaganda, but this is what the left been saying, man. I'm very upset that we're not getting any credit. Like, the RBN, the gray zone left, the Black Agenda report left. Like, we've been calling this out from day one that this war can't be won. If you're a peace advocate and you are against gun violence, if you're against violence in general, we need to stop this war, even if it means painful concessions, because this war can't be won. This is what Donald Trump calling out here. Anyway, let me continue. Zelenskyy talked the United States into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the United States and Trump, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States gets nothing back. Why didn't Sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization, in that this war is far more important to Europe than it is us? We have a big, beautiful ocean as separation. Common sense. See, once again, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, obviously. I'm post-duopoly, but this is Republicans. Well, I should say this is the Democratic Party proving that they are the stupid people party. Republicans are just common sense evil. Like, they evil, but they still will say shit that's that common sense in this instance. Meanwhile, Democrats are just straight stupid. Oh my God, if we don't provoke nuclear war, Putin is going to invade Europe. Ooh, it's a threat to our national security. We're going to get invaded by Russia. The stupid people party. Like, I don't want to do this. I'm upset, that you guys forced me to do this because you guys, the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders, the fake resistance, and I'm going to show you guys it because that's coming up soon. They are making MAGA look better among peace activists, the working class, and they are driving people to MAGA when they don't really deserve it. This is just common sense governing. Like, I'm not even praising Trump. It's just common sense foreign policy. And now people are looking at MAGA as the people who have common sense, well, they're not even that fucking great just because Democrats are that incompetent. They are that evil. They are that bloodthirsty. That's why it's very upsetting. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's continue. He explained how we have an ocean at separation, so there's no reason why it's a national security threat to end this war. Anyway, let's continue. On top of this, Zelenskyy admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. Like, that was a big blunder when Zelenskyy said that. He just admitted that it was a money laundering operation, how there's a black market boom. And there's obviously the common sense position that anyone should have that if we send $300 fucking billion, Europe send hundreds of 200 billion, and you guys still losing? What the fuck? We should end support for you guys. Suck. You guys can't win. Like, this is Trump being the rational voice, and that, oh my God, that shit is so fucking infuriating. Oh my God. Democrats, are you serious? The Bernie Sanders is the batshit crazy one in this situation. This is Donald Trump actually standing for democracy, where he says he refuses to have elections and very low in Ukrainian polls. And the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle, which he did. Democrats suck so much that they got Trump telling the truth about what the fuck Biden did. A dictator without elections, Zelenskyy better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end of the war in Russia. With that said, I'm sorry to deviate, but you guys know that Putin, in the beginning of the conflict, I covered at the time, he was willing to allow Zelenskyy to stay in leadership position in the beginning of the conflict. Russia, unlike the United States, they didn't even have the goal of regime change. Now, after Zelenskyy decided to sell his people out and he was obsessed with joining NATO and killing as many Russians as possible, Russia has since changed their position where they said, no, we want to get rid of Zelenskyy. Like, no matter what, Zelenskyy got to go. That has been a position for the last year and a half. Zelenskyy could have stayed if he took the original peace talks. And this is why Zelenskyy not going to have a country left, man. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried, and Putin and Russia confirms that. They're like, bro, they didn't even try to reach out to us and shit, man. The same thing that Arab leaders said about Biden when Trump got the fake ceasefire that he's not enforcing. Where they said Biden didn't even try to get a peace deal. He didn't even try to twist the hand of Israelis. The same thing happening again. Once again, the Democratic Party is the bloodthirsty, pro-war, stupid people party. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelenskyy probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelenskyy has done a terrible job. Guys, you understand that my position and Trump's position is the pro-Ukrainian position. We are the ones who want the death to stop. We are the ones who want Ukrainians to live and thrive with their Russian neighbors. We want their economy to grow. We want Ukrainians to live happy lives free of Banderite, fascist violence, political violence that they have suffered through for the last 2 decades. Probably longer than that, to be honest. You guys get my point, though. We want Ukraine to live. Meanwhile, neocons, and there's so many clips I could show you guys, of people saying that, yo, Ukrainians are dying for us. Ukrainians are dying for the empire. You have the West that is testing battlefield innovations. I show this shit all the time. Here it is. I'll show it again. I'll show this shit all the time on HotSpot videos. How Ukraine became a test bed for Western weapons and battlefield innovation. So the Bernie Sanders position, the Ro Khanna position, and the Hakeem Jeffries Democrat position is that it's good that Ukrainians are being used as war guinea pigs and fighting a war they can't win, trading their life for a boom of the military-industrial complex. What did our brother Julian Assange tell us? The goal of the West is not ending war, it's not winning war, it's never-ending profitable war. Meanwhile, dipshits like Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna legitimately believe that we are fighting a war for democracy. Actually, I tease this enough, so let's get to that. I'll tease this part enough. So let me show you guys what the resistance is doing. This is the people that think they have the moral high ground over Donald Trump and MAGA. This is the new DNC Vice Chair. Yeah, do you guys know that? David Hogg used his big following to fundraise for the genocidal Democratic Party. He never tweeted about Gaza, never tweeted about Palestine. He got the DNC Vice Chair job because he uses algorithmically push DNC bot followers to get 1 million followers, and he used that to trick the working class into donating to the Democratic Party. So he's the DNC Vice Chair, and I remember seeing he was like, "Hey guys, we need a new youthful, energetic way to oppose Trump. The old guard of the Democratic Party, they out of touch with what the young people want. We know how to take on Trump. Gen Z, we know how to ruin Trump. We take on MAGA all the time, man. If you make me the DNC Vice Chair, I'm going to destroy MAGA." So what is the fresh, new ideas coming from David Hogg? If we abandon Ukraine, Poland is next. David Hogg is getting his foreign policy from Lindsey Graham. This is Lindsey Graham's favorite talking point here. The Democratic Party is literally repeating Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell talking points. This is supposed to be the fresh new face of the Democratic Party. The Democrats are completely cooked, man. You know what's going to be a lot more expensive than finishing this war? I would love to know how he would define that. So he says, you know what's going to be a lot more expensive than finishing this war and forcing Putin out of Ukraine? A third world war and a second Marshall Plan. We're arguably in the most important moment in geopolitics since World War II. And our president is letting a strongman castrate us and our ally. Oh, Jesus Christ. And this is what I said. So your plan to defeat Donald Trump is to flank him from his right and advocate for more war? That's the plan of the Democratic Party? And think about this. This is not Joe Scarborough. This is not David Ignatius and all those war criminals we listen to on MSNBC. This is a young, I think he's like 24, 25. How old is he? He's a young guy. Bro, aren't you military aged, sir? How are you military age advocating for the war? Why the fuck don't you enlist in the military if you so passionately believe in this war? If you believe this is the most important moment since World War II, and you believe that Russia is going to conquer the entirety of Europe, you as a 24-year-old man, you are not enlisting? So you want other people's children to die in a war that you feel to be important. All the people advocating for the Ukraine war, are they sending their children to fight? No, they're sending the poor working class, the poor misguided fools who decided to work for the United States military instead of engaging in class war. Why the fuck aren't you enlisting in this conflict? Don't you guys understand how evil people like David Hogg is? This is pure evil. For you to advocate for war that you're not even willing to fight? The idea of me fighting war is absurd. If it's not a war for liberation. I studied history. I have seen so many men. That's the history of Europe and humanity. Is men being sent out to war, having no choice. In Europe, you are forced to be conscripted into military service by your lord. You guys know I was big into history. The local lords had complete control over over life of people in London and in the UK. And you were forced to fight their wars. There were so many of these British people, and this was systemic throughout the monarchy era of Europe, where you had no choice. Like if the king decided to launch a war of aggression, if he had a beef with another member of the royal family, they would send your ass to war, and you had no fucking choice. You had no choice. So me studying history, I'm like, bro, the worst thing you can possibly do is sacrifice your life on the ambitions of the ruling class. So David Hogg wanted to sacrifice other poor people, other working class people. Him wanting to sacrifice Ukrainians for a war that he supports instead of advocating for peace. What is more evil than that, guys? I don't support war at all. That's why I wouldn't fight in war. But the people who call for war, who won't enlist, like David Hogg, they are among the most evil people in our society. And these liberals, and this is why I don't support liberalism, decolonize your mind. Don't allow these shitlibs to disarm the proletariat. Shitlibs are not against gun violence, guys. They are not against gun violence. They cheer on gun violence against Palestinians. They're cheering on continuing gun violence in Ukraine. They cheer on gun violence when police gun our people down. That's why they're building cop cities all over the country. So people like David Hogg and the bourgeoisie, they don't oppose gun violence. They want to disarm the proletariat. Because if you actually wanted to end gun violence, you would be anti-war. You would oppose this war, because this war, even according to DHS, they're concerned about a black market boom of guns in this country. And they are concerned that a black market network, because Zelenskyy in Ukraine already said they're not getting 50% of the aid. There's corporate media that was reporting on how there are loose weapons. So these weapons are creating a black market boom, going to groups like Boko Haram, going to terrorist groups in Africa. There's going to be white supremacist groups that have guns that are going to bring them back to South America, bring them back to Brazil, bring them back to the United States. I live in Missouri, guys. There was KKK neo-Nazi sightings, and there was an attack last year. There was a white supremacist lynching attempt on a young black teenager in Missouri. Google it, last year. So now I'm going to have to deal with neo-Nazis in Missouri that have access to black market guns. That is the result of the position that David Hogg supports, the quote-unquote gun advocate. Do not allow these liberals to convince you to disarm before the police state disarms itself. Don't ever allow them to convince you to disarm, especially as they are committing violence across the world. We cannot allow the ruling class to monopolize self-defense. This is the result of the policies of David Hogg, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and all the people who support the Democratic Party. Even Biden's DHS said that they're worried about Nazis returning to the U.S. after fighting in Ukraine. Why isn't the media? Pentagon watchdog finds that some Western weaponry, I'm gonna make that bigger. Yeah, Pentagon watchdog finds some Western weaponry sent to Ukraine was stolen before being recovered last year. This is a CNN headline, guys. So we have to deal with a black market boom of guns because of Ro Khanna and the NATO left, who is enabling white supremacist violence, enabling terrorism in Africa. The consequences of this massive leak of Western weapons to Azov and terrorist groups is going to be felt for decades, guys. This is what David Hogg supported. So they report that Ukraine weaponry was stolen before, and there's still a lot of weapons that are stolen. Look, these are corporate media headlines, guys. The tragic but unsurprising cost of loose U.S. weapons in Ukraine. And they explain how many of these weapons are completely unaccountable, and there's a good chance that they will be in the hands of extremists and people who are sympathetic towards using violence as a way to achieve their political ends. And you want to know the message, and this is what I mentioned many times before. This is the position of the quote-unquote progressive Democrats. I've called them the NATO left. The progressives who created the illusion that people on the left support the Ukraine war. And they did this. This shows how nefarious Bernie Sanders is. The job of Bernie Sanders and AOC is to shift what it means to be a socialist to the right, to the pro-war neoliberal right, to redefine what it means to be a socialist. That has already been done in Europe. That is what the Green parties of Europe, they are already embracing pro-war liberalism. So the job of Bernie Sanders and AOC and the DSA is import pro-war leftist ideology into the United States and create that as the new mainstream left. That's why whenever the corporate media talks about Trump's position, Tucker Carlson's position on Ukraine, they say, oh, there are people on the far right that support peace in Ukraine. They present the people who advocate for peace as the far right position. You know how they are able to do this? They do this because Bernie Sanders, AOC, does their job of providing leftist credibility to the pro-war position. While people like RBN, Black Agenda Report, and the Gray Zone, and people who on the left who are critical of the Ukraine war, we are locked out of mainstream discourse. We are treated like we don't exist. And there are many people in independent media that assist in silencing RBN. You guys know who they are. So we don't exist, and Bernie Sanders is here to facilitate a pro-war left-wing movement, which is why it is extremely dismaying the state of the United States left that Hassan Piker is by far the biggest quote-unquote left socialist voice, when Hassan Piker had Bernie Sanders on and didn't ask one question about the Ukraine war. This is why it's shocked. Like my brother Q and a few others, like, yeah, I kind of like Hassan. What the fuck? I see people in my community that say, don't you know Hassan pretty good? Hassan had Bernie Sanders on and gave him a tongue bath, didn't ask him any questions about the Ukraine war at all. Compare Hassan's interview. Once again, Hassan, who is way more influential than I am, literally by magnitudes of hundreds of times more influential than I am. And he is considered the voice of the left because a lot of people think he's hot or whatever. That's how serious the left is in the United States, where they follow dipshits like Hassan Piker just because they're sexually attracted to them. Someone who knows no theory, someone who promotes the Ukraine war, someone who promotes the Democratic Party as the face of the left in this country, and who has way more influence by magnitude of hundreds. And he brings this pro-war cocksucker on, Bernie Sanders, and then presents him as a friend of the working class. He presents him as a friend of the peace movement. And you guys understand why the United States is completely fucked? Why the United States left is completely fucked? Because here is Bernie Sanders in the position of the entirety of the NATO left, the progressive democratic movement that Ro Khanna tried to bring us back in, that Marianne Wilson is bringing people back in, that Cal Kalinske is bringing people back into, the Vanguard is people bringing people back into, Crystal Ball, all these people bringing people back into a pro-war, batshit crazy, stupid person party. So for the people who haven't read the tweet on the screen yet, here's Bernie Sanders. This is how his plan to resist Donald Trump. Trump and his American oligarchs are now openly aligning themselves with Putin and his Russian oligarchs. This Putin-Trump alliance means abandoning our allies, supporting authoritarianism, and undermining our democratic traditions. He's talking about democratic traditions as Zelenskyy is not holding elections. We have the NATO left, the dum-dum left, who will never invite me on the show because they know I will crush them. You guys see, Ro Khanna, that was easy work. Go listen to my interview if you haven't seen it. I destroyed him, and it was easy work. How are you a social democrat, someone who claims to support unions, when Ukraine banned the right to collective bargaining? You have socialists in this country, including Bernie Sanders, the DSA, and the entirety of the NATO left that supports a country that banned collective bargaining. How the fuck are you a socialist by supporting this fascist state? We know fascism is a relationship that state has with labor and capital. Ukraine is a fascist country because they cracked down on socialists. They did the same thing that Nazi Germany did. One of the first things that Nazi Germany did was ban the right to collective bargaining, undermine labor rights. That is what it means to be a fascist. When the state joins with the capitalist class, it merges with corporations in order to crack down on the working class and wage class war among the working class. That is the pure definition of fascism. So it is not an exaggeration to say that Ukraine is a fascist state. So to show you guys the truly bleak situation in the United States when it comes to the left, we have a giant segment of the quote-unquote credible left. Like, these are the people who are apparently way more credible than me. I'm just some nigga. I'm some college dropout. I'm just some guy who rants on the RBN live stream. I'm not credible, guys. But the Bernie Sanders, the Sam Cedars, the Emma Vigelands, the Cenk Uygurs, the NATO left is giving credibility when they are supporting fascists who fight against collective bargaining rights. Do you guys understand that Bernie Sanders is a traitor to the idea of socialism by supporting Ukraine? Literally fighting against the concept of democracy. I said, hey, Bernie, how many Ukrainians must die to fulfill your anti-Russian bloodlust? And the real answer that Bernie Sanders had that he will never admit is that as many as possible. I want all of them to die. So the NATO left thing, they're like, why do you hate Ukraine, Nick? Why do you hate Ukraine? What do you mean, why do I hate Ukraine? I'm the one who tries to save Ukrainian lives. The position of Bernie Sanders is he wants as many Ukrainians to die because he has a rabid hatred for Vladimir Putin. That is why he is a pro-war piece of garbage. Easy the worst sellout of my life, as I explain here. And bro, Bernie getting destroyed. Bernie, you should be ashamed of yourself. Trump and Putin are trying to end this unwinnable, suicidal U.S. proxy war, and you're criticizing that effort? How many more Ukrainians must needlessly slaughtered before you and other bloodthirsty war pigs in Congress are satisfied. So remember how Ro Khanna went on my show and he was like, hey man, will you ever support Bernie Sanders if he ran again? And I said no, and he was shocked. You shocked that I want to support Bernie again when Bernie Sanders is a pro-war piece of shit who wants as many Ukrainians to die. He is a sellout of historical proportions, which is why people don't. This is why I focus on him. People like to call AOC. Why are you not calling out Bernie? He is the most evil, malicious motherfucker who stole millions, hundreds of millions of dollars from the working class. He took money from poor working class people only to advocate for NATO and for fascism. You sent weapons to Nazis. You are to the right of Trump on this issue. Dude, if you read this, I know my algorithm is really radical. Bernie is trying to go to bed. But dude, anyone who's actually a serious peace advocate, which the NATO left is not, is destroying Bernie Sanders for this. Like this, the right wing is also attacking him. He thinks this is a diss, but this is actually base as hell. This is Bernie before he completely sold out. Didn't you honeymoon in the Soviet Union? Yeah, Bernie Sanders is a historic traitor. He used to stand up against the Cold War. He used to call out Ronald Reagan for fueling CIA death squads. That's how he tricked me, because I used to look at Bernie Sanders before Michael Prenti disavowed his friendship. To be honest, I criticize myself all the time. I had blinders on back then. You know what I mean? I was a hopeful Bernie bro. I take that L all day. Back when I used to support Bernie, I used to take his good positions while ignoring when he sold out Yugoslavia. I'll be honest about that. Like, fuck, man. I was like, oh, man, maybe Bernie learned his lesson. So there was a time where Bernie used to call out real empire shit, man. He used to advocate for peaceful relations between the United States and Russia, and the Hillary campaign attacked him for it. And now he's this complete Putin neocon war hawk. And people want to believe that this is a legitimate change of heart. There is no way this is a legitimate change of heart. This is the most blatant sellout that we have ever seen in Bernie Sanders. Him and Barack Obama. The most blatant shit I've ever seen. And it's utterly disgusting. So that's the position of Bernie Sanders and the NATO left. I'm actually, we were seeing the end of the stream. I want to see what the more. I want to see some more commentary. Let's look at the timeline here. Big shout out to. I have an update from HotSpot. I want to show this video from Donald Trump, but I think we had 90 minutes in. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this live stream, man. It's fun to be back at Nick at Night. There was so much to cover, and we still got so many live streams coming up. So make sure you like it. I want to end with this breaking news. Once again, make sure you guys follow HotSpot. They're killing the game. 30,000 plus subscribers now. They are helping Black radical journalists create high quality videos. And they also, not only do they help us edit our videos, they also do a great job at breaking news and anti-imperialist coverage. So I'm saying this for the first time. Let's watch it as we wrap this stream up, and I'll give this some super chats. Here's Donald Trump doubling down, because this is a press conference he did today. I didn't have a chance to watch any of this, so we are watching this live together. Let's see what he said. Trump doubles down on calling Zelenskyy a dictator. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. So this is what I mean. Zelenskyy fucked up, man. J.D. Vance said that you're going to regret going after Donald Trump, man. And Donald Trump is literally twisting the knife into Zelenskyy. So let's listen to this.
He refuses to have elections. It's low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. Somebody said, oh, no, his polls are good. Give me a break. Every city is being demolished. They look like a demolition site, every single one of them. And the only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle. He played him like a fiddle. That's an expression we use, Yasser, to say that he's pretty easy, pretty easy. A dictator without elections. Zelenskyy better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast because that war is going in the wrong direction. In the meantime, we're successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit that only Trump is going to be able to do in the Trump administration. We're going to be able to do it. I think Putin even admitted that.
Wasn't Trump is absolutely cooking Zelenskyy. And what does it say? And the reason why Donald Trump is able to dominate the narrative is because look at the difference. Like we have a president that is actually doing press conferences now. He's actually doing live, unscripted media scrums and interviews. That's not a praise of Trump, guys. I'm just saying that's how low Democrats stooped when Biden never did shit like this. So like Biden would never take live questions, and that's why it was always absurd when Democrats would say shit like, "Oh, come on, y'all know Biden is demented, but Trump is only 2-3 years younger than Biden." You know, Trump is doing interviews that Biden could never do, that Democrats in general could never do, because they are just simply that incompetent. I appreciate it. Happy belated birthday, my brother. I appreciate it. I had a birthday a few weeks ago. Much love to you guys. I want to end it with this Jeffrey Sachs video. Actually, no, I still got to play the other video. So we had 2 videos when we wrap up. So continue to watch how we wind this stream down. I'm going to read some super chats before I get to the very last part of the stream. Almost 2 hours at Nick and Night. Let's go. Thanks for the $2, CEB Applejack. I appreciate it. A big shout out to C. Garwa. Appreciate you gifting some Revolutionary Blackout membership. That's a good way to support the channel. Also, if you guys want to support our channel, which has been brutally suppressed in the YouTube algorithm, they demonetize all our streams. God, they demonetize like 50% of our shit at least. You know what I mean? So that's why I asked if you support the channel, even giving a $3 pledge on Patreon will help us a lot. So I'm trying to do a Patreon drive, so hopefully we can get at least 50 people to pledge $3 a stream to help us support the labor. You know what I mean? This is 90 minutes of pure ranting and breaking down the news. Hope you guys appreciate it. Big shout out to Christian99. This is a lot of work, so I appreciate you guys for supporting my form of journalism. My interviews, my HotSpot videos is no different than what mainstream journalists do. I mean, it's like my I view it as my role in this movement is to be the educator, the radicalizer, the organizer. Like my vision is truly having a mutual aid society, building mutual aid societies in this country, and that's the end goal of RBN. I appreciate you guys for supporting us. So big shout out to Christian. Here's another one. Russia, China-sized bangers. I told you guys we got banger after banger, man. Banger after banger on Oh, I'm not HotSpot, by the way. Just to be clear. HotSpot is ran by Nico and some other people. I think they enjoy their privacy. But they're media people. Nico was a big part of it. And Nico is the one who brought me in. So much love to Nico House, man. You guys don't know he's a real one. Nico House is the one who put the word in. So that's why I do a lot of great work with HotSpot. Like you see all these CNN. I see Crystal Ball starting to do those style videos. Essentially just the new age of journalism. People who used to write these short newspaper articles, and that's legitimate journalism. That's essentially what I do with HotSpot. Because I had to write the entire script, do research, look at transcripts. It's the same thing. It's just the modern version of journalism. That's what I convinced myself of. I personally like to keep what it means to be a journalist as vague as possible, as open as possible, because the ruling class wants to weaponize and gatekeep journalism as being something only of the bourgeoisie. I am a humble working class journalist. I'm not saying I'm a prominent journalist. I'm not saying I'm a big journalist, but I'm a working class journalist because I have people I can share stories to, I can inform. We cannot allow the ruling class to gatekeep journalism as something that you got to go to college for. You got to have a corporate gig. There's no difference between the gig I have at HotSpot versus MSNBC, except the fact that I have way more freedom. I can talk about whatever I want and criticize the empire. So that's my argument. That's why, for the people confused, that's why I say I believe that's true citizen journalism. That's what I believe. I think I'm a little bit caught up here. The irony of black cops. I'm gonna read a few. Yeah, I think I am caught up. I think I missed this one. I think I missed two. Thanks for the $5 Chima. Unfortunately, there are too many of our fellow black folks who will hate China and Russia and love Israel simply because white people told us to. Very well said. I had a tweet because I've been calling out these people. I wonder if I can find it. I was popping off because I've been raising awareness about China, to say the least, on Twitter. And it's always funny when these poor white people who was left behind by the empire, who was loyal by the empire. This is my thread. I read it. I wasn't planning on reading it, but since we had Super Chat to talk about it, I'm sure this is a person that see me on Twitter. And these people who hate on China and Russia are truly brainwashed. Especially when I see these poor white people. You know what I mean? And I had this tweet. Poor white people complaining about China are broke and depressed because their dumbass don't even know how to identify their true enemy. Sorry, I'm kind of a shit talker on Twitter. You have all these people talking shit about DEI. You think I'm not going to swing back? I'm not one of these fucking pussies, okay? I'm not one of these people that are like, oh my God, I got to leave X because X is so mean. I'm like, nigga, let's get in the trenches. I'm from Kansas City. I'm from a city full of shit talkers. You guys want to talk about DEI? All right, I'm going to call you guys out then. Then you got poor white dudes with countless undiagnosed illnesses that have no health care, that are obsessed with the evil of the Chinese Communist Party. The bourgeoisie white people, as I explained, rich white people laugh at your dumb ass. There's a reason why rich white people hate China, because China is a threat to their power. They're showing an alternative model of economics where you can rein in the capitalist class. You can seize the means of production and create a thriving environment for the working class. So that's why rich white people hate China, because it's a threat to their power. Now, so poor white people, why do you hate China? Poor black people, why do you hate China? Imagine your mind being so decolonized. And we try to be nice. I had to shit talk and we had to shame these people because we try to be rational. We try to be rational. We try to be compassionate. We try to be kind to poor white people forever. And they still voting against our interests because they worry about fucking DEI. They worry about trans people. Don't you know trans people in restrooms? Don't you know there's 10 trans athletes in the country? I'm going to vote against my class interest because of that. I'm not the guy. Like I got a lot of conservative followers. There are some people I'm not going to win over, but I'm a blunt motherfucker, man. I have no fucking tolerance for these poor white people who keep voting against their interests. And for white people in their feelings, you got to know I call out black liberalism too. I call out how black boomers sold out the black working class. You guys hear me say that all the time before you guys start bitching and complaining. So I have a ton of heat for my people, and I criticize my community when they deserve it. But I'm looking at poor white people, and you guys are fucking baffling to me. You guys are absolutely baffling to me. So they believe that their biggest struggle right now is DEI, as we have the capitalist class that is exploiting their labor. Truly pathetic, in my opinion. This is why I despise the class war. And I ended on this. The American empire stole trillions. The American empire stole trillions from the global south, and they didn't give your poor white ass a slice of the pie. You guys understand? I live in Missouri. I love talking to conservatives. I bring this shit up all the time. I hurt people. I hurt your feelings. You're gonna be upset with me, but you're gonna go home thinking about some shit. This is why they don't invite me on right-wing media. This is why they don't want to have a debate with me, because I will hurt your feelings. So you're poor, you're white, and you are loyal to an empire that stole trillions of dollars from the global south. They stole from Africa. You have the British Empire that stole trillions from India. Meanwhile, there's still a poor working class in London, and they are loyal to the British Empire. Straight up clown shit. We stole all this wealth. Meanwhile, they left your poor ass without any slice of the pie. And you over here loyal to the empire. You're over here like, oh my God, we must oppose the Chinese Communist Party. Oh my God. And the reason why I'm clapping like this on Twitter, for the people who don't know the context, is because there's all these like white dudes that always reply to my like pro-China tweets like, don't you know how evil the Chinese Communist Party is, Nick? Now, once again, if you're a wealthy white influencer, that shit makes sense because you are engaging in class warfare. You want people to hate a successful socialist-style country. So I have these style people. This is my mentions whenever I post about how Asians aren't evil. And trust me, I still want to do DPRK Power Hour. Whenever I bring up how North Korea and China is not evil as you guys say they are, I always have these white people, and there's a few of them that, and it's just simply by the matter of statistics that a lot of these motherfuckers are working class and poor. Why are you have a hatred of another country after the empire stole from you? This is my plea to poor white people. I'm not trying to win over wealthy. The idea of me winning over suburban white people is absurd, guys. I knocked on hundreds of doors with Bernie people. The worst people I dealt with is white liberals. If you're a conservative and you're able to own a Ford F-150, an extremely expensive truck, if you're part of the managerial white working class, I can't reach you. Like, I tried. They are my least successful motherfuckers. But poor white people who are class conscious, they understand. You guys, the white allies watching my show, they understand. And I had the position, and everyone has their different ways of going about this. And if anyone is hurt by my rhetoric, like some people was, you understand the only way we can reach these people, unfortunately, is by shaming their poor white ass. I'm sorry. The same way I would shame poor neoliberal black people who vote against our interests by supporting the Democratic Party. It's the same thing. Because I have all the heat for class traders, right? All right, let's wrap up tonight. Thank you guys for watching. I think I got all the super chats. Make sure you guys follow us on HotSpot. Tomorrow I have a Palestinian roundtable that I'm planning. Hopefully I can get everything confirmed. Roundtables are hard to schedule. So I'm gonna just put this. This is an older banner. I don't have I don't have a graphic designer anymore. So sorry, this is an older banner here. So I'm gonna just put this up because I don't want to be on camera no more. But just for a while coming up, I have a Palestinian roundtable. It's hard to organize though, so I really hope I can get everything confirmed for tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time. But also have a prominent African journalist join us tomorrow to explain how USAID funded Boko Haram and regime change efforts in Africa. So we have a banger tonight. We have another banger tomorrow, and then we have another massive bang on Friday. Midwestern Marks and the people from the ACP, the American Communist Party, they'll be joined on Friday. Anyone who is an anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, I'm always down to talk to, and they've been doing some interesting stuff, man. So I'm interested in talking to them on Friday. There are a lot of people who try to cancel them and they don't want to talk to them, but I'm down to talk to anybody. You know what I mean? I share my criticisms of MAGA communism and some of their approaches, but I think we are working for the same thing of ending imperialism, which is my most important thing. And we will continue to be critical when it needs to be. But I think it's most important to open dialogue up. You know what I mean? So Friday, Midwestern March, ACP, the American Communist Party will be on. So banger after banger after banger after banger, my friends. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good night.